Lil Durk collapse Hogaya courtroom main, or reason the ek evidence file jiska namhaida, the end of Durk Banks. Yehi file use King Von ka murder esi jadi hai. Lekan asli sol ya hai, kia Durk apnis and dagi bashane kalia von ko backdoor kargayada? Aaj hum iss shocking kahani ka asli sach samaj and ki koshish karenj. Agar main AAPSE kahin ki Lil Durk ka kalaf AC evidence file Nikol Kari hi jo use apni hidost King Von ki mout se jadi hai. To kia AAP monaji? Courtroom main collapse hone se la car bankers or lawyers ka leaked messages tak. Ye case ek movie se kem nahi. Sol surf ek hi, Durk kais bachega. King Von ki mout ek accident t, ya ek setup? Nay files kadi hain Lil Durk kud is plan ka hisada. Or jab judge any uski release date suanai. Durk courtroom main gurgaya. Akir wokia secret hijo uskasab kuch katankar sakta hai. We start today with shocking news. Rapper Lil Durk, whose real name is Durk Banks from Chicago, has been hit with serious charges in a murder-for-hire case. This mugshot from Florida shows him after being arrested last night. During the court hearing, when the judge announced his release date, Durk collapsed to the ground. The reason? Police revealed a new evidence file labeled The End of Durk Banks. This file reportedly links him to having some role in the death of King Von. To understand why his release date matters, you need to know about the new allegations. It all begins with Vonnie's father, who turned against his own son and Durk, claiming he had proof of a setup. According to him, Durk asked Vonnie if it was open, to which Vonnie replied, "It's off the hinges." Many believe this was coded talk about King Von being backdoored. The accusations continue with claims that money was paid to Lil Tim, who was tied to the situation with Von. Witnesses say Durk was checking in with Vonnie, repeating the same coded phrase, "Was it open?" This raised suspicions that there was a plan behind Von's death. The case building against Durk seems to be getting heavier with each passing day. What started as whispers and scattered claims has now turned into a growing pile of statements, documents, and suspicions that are hard to ignore. One of the strongest voices pushing this narrative is Vonnie's father. He has been very vocal, saying he has solid proof that connects Durk to situations most people thought were already buried. According to him, it is not just rumors being thrown around. He claims that real evidence exists, and he says he is ready to bring it forward if the time comes. Vonnie's father insists he has bankers prepared to testify. These are not random names being tossed out, but financial people who allegedly know about money transfers that were tied to Durk and Von's situation. In cases like this, money often leaves a trail. Bank records, transfers, and sudden payments can all reveal a story that conversations alone cannot cover up. If what Vonnie's father says is true, then these bankers could possibly connect financial moves to legal decisions, pointing to who may have been protecting themselves while letting someone else take the fall. On top of that, he also claims to have text messages from lawyers. These messages, he says, directly reveal who was cooperating with authorities and who gave up names when pressure came down. In the streets, that is one of the worst accusations you can place on someone, that they snitched to save themselves. It damages reputations, breaks trust, and in many cases, changes the entire legacy of an artist or a public figure. For Durk, even the suggestion of that is enough to set off endless debates among fans, critics, and those who knew Von personally. The police reports add even more layers to the story. They do not just talk about evidence, but also reference media coverage. In one clip highlighted, DJ Academics is seen asking Vonnie's father a pointed question: why would Durk ever want Von gone? That question alone stirred up a lot of speculation. To some, it planted the idea that Durk may have had motives that went deeper than what was being shown to the public. For others, it looked like a narrative being pushed, something designed to make people question loyalty and brotherhood at the exact moment when it should have mattered most. At the time Von was killed, both he and Durk were tied together in a legal battle. They were co-defendants in a serious case. The fact that they stood side by side in court gave the impression that their bond was strong, unshakable, and rooted in loyalty. But behind closed doors, things did not play out as many expected. That case eventually came to a quiet, private settlement. No public showdown, no drawn-out courtroom fight, just an ending that left many scratching their heads. For those paying close attention, the way it wrapped up raised even more questions than answers. Investigators have not ignored these details. Some of them strongly believe that Durk may have worked out a deal with federal authorities. The theory is that he found a way to protect himself by pushing the heavier blame onto Vaughn, who could no longer defend himself after his death. If true, this would mean that Durk's survival in the industry was tied not only to his music and business moves, but also to backroom agreements that shifted responsibility away from him. This belief has become one of the most sensitive and heated topics when it comes to Durk's name. To his supporters, the idea sounds unfair and disrespectful. They argue that Durk has been targeted for years, both by law enforcement and by people who never wanted to see him rise. They say his success was earned, his struggles were real, and blaming him for Vaughn's fate is nothing more than a twisted way to drag his name down. But to critics, the pattern feels too convenient. They point to how cases that should have slowed or stopped him somehow disappeared or ended quietly, while other people connected to him seemed to pay the heavier price. The whispers only get louder when old interviews and clips are brought back to the surface. Every video, every statement, and every court document is re-examined, as if people are searching for clues that might have been overlooked the first time. When DJ Academic's clip is mentioned in police reports, it shows just how far investigators are willing to go in connecting dots. It is not just about hard evidence anymore. It is about building a picture, a story, and a possible motive. For Vonnie's father, this is personal. He has never let the story fade away. He has continued to speak out, determined to protect his son's name and legacy, while also demanding answers that he feels were never properly given. For him, the bankers, the lawyers, and the police reports are not random pieces of information. They are part of a puzzle that he believes will one day reveal the full truth about what really happened between Durk, Vaughn, and the case that tied them together. For the fans, the situation is complicated. On one side, there are people who feel that Durk's rise to the top came with too many unanswered questions. On the other side, there are those who see him as a survivor in an industry and a lifestyle where most never make it out. The debates continue on social media, in interviews, and in street conversations, with each new claim adding fuel to the fire. What makes this story so gripping is that it is not just about crime or music. It is about loyalty, survival, and the cost of success. If Durk truly made a deal to protect himself, it would force people to question everything they thought they knew about him, Vaughn, and the bond they once showed to the world. But if the accusations are false, then it shows how powerful rumors can be in tearing apart reputations and legacies. Either way, the case against Durk remains a storm of suspicion, evidence, and emotion that is far from over. One possible motive that has been raised in this case is jealousy. People close to the situation argue that Durk may have been worried about being overshadowed by Vaughn, whose rise was fast, raw, and authentic. Vaughn did not have to give up his creative rights or tie himself to complicated contracts, yet he was still building momentum at a speed few expected. This independence made him a rare figure in the industry, and many believe it put quiet pressure on Durk, who had built his career through more traditional industry pathways. As Vaughn's reputation grew, it started to shine in places where Durk's influence once stood firmly, creating whispers of tension between the two. Vaughn's success was even more striking because he was not fully signed under Durk's label. This fact alone, critics say, could have made the situation more uncomfortable. Vaughn managed to grab attention on his own terms, without the heavy support that most artists require. To some, this painted a picture of a rising star who could break free at any moment, and perhaps even surpass the one who first gave him a platform. Jealousy, in that sense, became a natural suspicion for observers who watched the story unfold. Adding fuel to these claims are accusations that Durk sometimes stretched the truth in public interviews. In several appearances, he painted a picture of Vaughn as a young artist who already had strong financial backing and powerful legal protection. Durk would say that Vaughn had a team of lawyers and big money behind him, as if to suggest he was secure and well-supported. But according to critics, the reality was far different. Vaughn, despite the growing fame, only had access to a public defender, a stark contrast to the image Durk presented. To those on the outside, this raised uncomfortable questions. Why would Durk, who supposedly cared for Vaughn, exaggerate about his resources instead of helping him secure the real backing he needed? Was it a way to protect Vaughn's image and keep him looking untouchable? Or was it something darker, a strategy to hide how vulnerable Vaughn actually was? These questions continue to drive debates today, with some convinced that jealousy and insecurity quietly shaped the choices made behind the scenes. The drama exploded online when a tweet went viral saying, "Vaughn's dad leaking that Durk had him dealt with makes me wonder why Durk always goes live on Instagram after someone close to him dies." Fans noticed he went live after Vaughn's death, as well as after Lullub and FBG Duck's passing, sparking rumors that Durk uses live streams as alibis. Meanwhile, Vonnie's father has been openly speaking on jail calls, saying his son played himself by cooperating with authorities. He insists Vonnie got caught up by trusting the wrong people, while also claiming Durk was behind multiple orchestrated moves. This has fueled a storm of accusations online, with even Durk's sister-in-law jumping in, calling Vonnie a snitch on Instagram. Court files now show that Durk is no longer in federal prison custody, meaning he has likely been released on house arrest. Reports say he already has a cell phone and has been texting people close to him. One of those texts was leaked, showing Vonnie trying to cut a plea deal, pleading out for 32 years instead of risking life, with the hope of shaving off years for cooperation and a clean record. Vonnie, now facing his own charges, admitted that he planned to take a plea deal. He explained, "If I take the deal, I'll get 27 points, which means 5 to 7 years. That's better than going to trial. If I go to trial, I might get life. I don't want to end up like the others." When he said the others, he was referring to Jam, but more on that later. The reason Vonnie snitched is tied to a bigger situation. Along with him, names like Infurk, D, and Ted come into play. Recently, new bodycam footage of Ted changed everything in Durk's case. The video shows Ted crying and begging the police to let him cooperate against Durk and his crew. Because of this, Durk's lawyers requested extra time for their bond proposal, raising questions about what exactly Ted told the feds. Ted, who happens to be Dee's younger brother and related to Vonnie, was arrested at a convenience store with a gun in his pocket. When police took him in, he broke down, crying and pleading, "Please don't lock me up. I'll tell you everything about the murders." But it was too late. He was placed in a holding cell, where cameras captured him sobbing and desperate to give up names of street members in exchange for freedom. For a while, people thought Dee was the one snitching since his family name showed up in the paperwork, but it turned out to be Ted. With both Ted and Vonnie cooperating, many believe their family convinced them to save themselves instead of throwing their lives away. But while they made deals to shorten their sentences, Durk's situation only got worse. Earlier today, reports came out that Durk was involved in a fight inside jail. Right after, rapper Lil Baby tweeted, "I don't care about nothing else other than Durk right now. Free the bro." Meanwhile, tragedy hit Durk's circle outside. His close friend Glee was killed in Chicago. This raised questions about whether rival groups were targeting members close to Durk. Adding to the tension, on the same day Glee was killed, Quando Rondo and Lil Tim both released interviews. They claimed they had no bad intentions toward King Von and that the situation should have been handled differently. Lil Tim said he was only protecting his friend, and Quando added that the beef could have been settled in music, not violence. Fans saw it as strange that both interviews dropped the same day, leading some to believe the feds cleared their names quickly in order to shift pressure back onto Durk. Now, attention is on Durk's bond hearing. His father spoke outside the courtroom, explaining that this was the third attempt to get Durk released. He said the judge seemed fair this time, not leaning toward the defense or the prosecution, and that a ruling would come in the next few days. Durk's family asked fans to keep praying, hoping this time the outcome will be in their favor. As Durk's bond hearing continued, the prosecutors surprised everyone by dropping some of their evidence. In court, they openly admitted they were throwing parts of the case away, but they still read the files aloud in front of the judge. Reporters noted how unusual this was, wondering how it might affect the rest of the hearing. One shocking moment came when prosecutors read out Durk's lyrics as evidence, which caused his attorney to shout no inside the courtroom. At the same time, unrelated news broke that 3 men connected to a Savannah rapper had been targeted in Los Angeles, with cameras capturing the chaotic aftermath. Many called the prosecutors' timing corrupt, accusing them of trying to weaken Durk's case while the judge was deciding on bond. Even Charleston White reacted online, calling the move a victory and claiming it was the end of drill rap. In his words, "That demonic energy is finally gone. Drill rappers won't be celebrated anymore. Down goes drill." He insisted that law-abiding fans of hip-hop would now have music without the violence attached to it. Uploaded just 30 minutes after Stephon Mack was killed. The next day, Durk appeared laughing in another video. To the feds, this timing looked like more than coincidence. Still, Durk's legal team says they are refusing any plea deal. When DJ Academics asked his lawyer if Durk would consider it, the response was firm: "No. We're going all the way." According to them, this is an all-or-nothing case. Either Durk walks free, or he faces life in prison. His attorneys are also preparing a backup strategy, arguing that Durk's lyrics and online posts are protected by the First Amendment. They believe rap music is a form of expression just like country, pop, or R&B, and that using his art as evidence violates his constitutional rights. One of the biggest arguments in Durk's case is whether his lyrics can be used against him. Critics say it's unfair that hip-hop gets treated differently, as if every violent line in a rap song is a confession. Durk's attorneys argue that this isn't just about him, it's about the First Amendment. Just because he raps about it doesn't mean he did it, one lawyer said, pointing to Young Thug's RICO case in Atlanta. Prosecutors leaned heavily on Thug's lyrics, but in the end, most charges didn't stick. Thug himself walked away with time served, and several co-defendants weren't convicted at all. "I don't think anyone would call that case a success," the lawyer added. Durk's legal team also pointed out that some of the lyrics prosecutors are using were recorded and released months before the crimes they're trying to connect them to. To them, it proves the state doesn't fully understand rap culture. "It's like reading a text without context," one attorney explained. To outsiders, it might sound like a confession. To people inside the culture, it can mean something totally different. But while prosecutors may struggle to decode lyrics, there's one thing they do understand: connections. And that's why the recent arrest of Brick Baby has sent shockwaves through Durk's case. According to court chatter, prosecutors deliberately delayed Durk's bond hearing so they could gather fresh evidence. Around the same time, Brick Baby, along with Big U, Loose Cannon, and others, was swept up in a rolling 60s gang takedown. Lawyers now believe Brick Baby could be pressured into snitching on Durk. The timing is suspicious. 3 years ago, Brick Baby went live on Instagram and claimed, "You can't say Durk never slid for Vaughn because they got Lil PAB." After Durk's arrest, Brick Baby even reacted to that old live stream, making it clear the feds had been watching him closely. Some now believe it was Brick Baby's words that first put Durk on the feds' radar for murder for hire. Things got even deeper when federal investigators linked Brick Baby to lyric evidence in Durk's case. In one video, Brick Baby admitted he might have given Quando Rondo's location to Durk if asked. "At the end of the day, what's wrong with giving my friend the address?" he said. He lost his boy. 9 times out of 10, had he asked me, I probably would have given it up. Now, with Brick Baby facing serious federal charges himself, prosecutors believe they can force him to flip. If that happens, he could provide the missing link that ties Durk directly to multiple plots the government is trying to prove.